Okay, guys, let's just quickly jump in. We are going to talk about this because it's literally knocking on the door.
Yep.
DWZ set to return next week on paper, and Roger the following week. Now we got to acknowledge Tane has had a great run. And here I'm talking like it's the end of his career. No, but he's going well.
Yep.
He's done very well, and it's a credit to him. I always say this kid's a footy player. He's a footy player. It doesn't matter where you put him; he'll find a way to impact the game. He has. With Roger coming back, and Pompey's been great. We know Pompey's been service a little goose in a step, like SJ was talking about today. And Fend. Look, what happens to those two? Is it a natural dropout? Is that just the way the business goes, and they've had their nice little run, and they drop back into cup? What do you make of that? I know some people were even Pompey over Berry in some cases. So what do you do, Ash, when those two come back in?
Yeah, for me, the obvious two that I feel will fall out would be Tane and Pompey. But now it's just a chat on what we do with Tane, because obviously Tane's done so well to hold that spot and to do a great job in that role. Would love to see him in the 17. But as I kind of said to you before, when we get a full deck of cards, Fisher Harris will come back in and all that. I'd say that Murata will probably go to the bench. Bunty will probably fall off that bench. And then we're probably running a bench of Murata, Jackson Ford, Dimitri Vaimwanga. And I'm guessing, that's probably Jacob Laban maybe coming back into the bench. Who knows? So I would probably say, unless we carry Tane as a 14, which we could, but really I feel like it's kind of a wasted spot there, because Tane obviously would be more of a wing or fullback cover. We could carry others, but I think for me, it'll go Tane, probably drop back into New South Wales Cup and play fullback for us, and they're killing it at the moment. Build a really good cohesion and combination there. Unfortunately, Pompey will probably have to fall back, but he would show the ropes to a lot of the young kids that are coming up, because we do agree that we need to get into those those outside back depths into New South Wales Cup and show them the way, because that's probably the area we're lacking at the moment. And then Dallin and RTS will return in the starting squad. I can't leave those two out. Like Dallin, his finishing ability, people do forget, the guy can finish things from pretty much nearly any position in that try line, right? And Roger, what he brings out of our back end, think of what we're doing to teams right now with the amount of run meters we're able to put on the board. We're able to get good field position. We're going to get that again. With Roger in there, that's another extra 100 meters on top of Pompey. And then with Dallin, he's going to return it. He's got a little bit bigger body than Tane, obviously. So that's the way I kind of see it. I feel for Tane in this situation, but Chance is at the club at the moment, and I think that he's still the most experienced, the better fullback right now. But Tane will take that role sometime in the future. And who knows, touch wood, we don't want injuries, but within this period, who knows what injuries could pop up again, and Tane could fill in another role there too. So he'll always be around the squad. And Webby says, this premiership or whatever's going to happen this season, it takes a squad to win a premiership and that. And I think that kind of helps the boys feel like they are a part of this still, even though they're not a part of that first grade squad. So that's the way I think it's going to have to happen. It's going to have to be a real tough, pill to swallow, but it just is going to have to go that way.
It probably is, and you're bang on. This is actually a great point by Wasta. Dallin's try-scoring prowess will always outshine his defensive liabilities in the worst way. Tane has been great on there. For me, Tane has been very sound in his decision-making.
Yeah.
In his defensive jams, when to do it, how to do it. I mean, the Storm game, he jumped for the ball. He was just a little bit too short, and it fell into Blimmin Coates' hands. You can't do much about that sometimes. No. But you do make, based on the system, he has been making the right reads. I do feel for the kid. This is business, like you're saying. If Dallin scores that try and he gets you yardage and other things, it just outweighs some of the great things that Tane's doing. But it's no knock on Tane. It really isn't.
What I would also say to that, though, is we're looking at Dallin's defensive game off breakdowns that have happened through more inside of the field from last year, right? we've got kind of a better defensive unit inside of him now, in my opinion, than what we had in 2024, right? With Shawnee with his injuries and stuff, I feel like Rocco had to overcover on his inside, which ended up causing a breakdown on the outside. So Dallin had to make those jamming in decisions a bit more, or those take intercepts decisions, where Tane's got a little bit more of the better run of, like, Luke Metcalf being a smaller body in a way, but he moves really well. Defensively, he's actually really sound as a 7, as we've probably seen to start the season. He's got a bit more speed to cover on the outside. It causes Rocco to be a bit more sturdy to really make good decisions. And that obviously filters into Tane making really good decisions as well. So I'm kind of looking at it that way. More that we are kind of figuring out about our defensive system is we can't look at like Dallin, what he had last year when he had to, deal with a broken down SJ defending where he became the spot. That's the way I'm kind of thinking. So, but yeah, either way, it's definitely a good point to point out.
It is actually great. And I think whilst we should actually look at Dallin for maybe 2 or 3 rounds with a better Metcalf, who's able to get off his reads, able to make the tackles, better health than what SJ was, with Berry, and just give it time. But it's actually not a bad discussion to have, and it's actually a high praise of Tane, but also an acknowledgement of what a bad year that Edge really had last year. It was quite poor, So you do want to acknowledge it. Well, I do want to touch on the centers, because there is a bit of, amongst the fan base, even Southside, shout out to channel member Southside first grader, we appreciate you, brother. He's taking Pompey over Rocco. There's an argument there. I know. I'd be interested to see what you think. I know you're probably going to say Rocco, Ash, but what is it that Pompey does give you that for some it's still in their minds kind of outweighs or is equal to what Rocco is providing? Is it because Rocco is just coming back from injury, or is there something that Pompey has? And I want to take the kicking goals argument out. Just purely center for center. What do you think that is?
Yeah, I think Rocco is obviously. I think Pompey's more the experienced center, right? And I feel like he's got more of a baseline type of game. I think on the attacking side of things, he's showing some things that a lot of people probably haven't seen in years past out of Pompey, with the beautiful left foot step. He's got a beautiful fan. He does connect to his edge probably really well on that left hand side. With all saying though, you're gonna have to move Ali back to the right hand side, and Pompey would have to go back to that left hand side, right? So that's kind of how that's probably going to work out if we are going to go Pompey over Berry. You already know what my view set is over that, but that's kind of the arguments I think for Pompey is more of the experience type, right? He's been in the system for a lot longer, and more of the attacking ability of, I think that in certain sequences, he does have a little bit more of that creation of space on his outside comparatively out of the two. But like defensively, I would probably sway more to Rocco, and then Rocco over years of progression, I think that he will, become the better center in general. So we may as well go that pivot that way for me in general. And then all the other stuff that Rocco does, the kick chase is probably a second to none sort of thing. When we lose a Kurt Capewell, you'll see the difference of, not having a Rocco there, right? Because Kurt kind of fills in that role and the real over kick chase and pressure teams in the opposite end. Pompey does that, but not to the ability of what a Berry does. So that's where I look at it from. I'd rather have Berry because I think he's more sturdy in defense and he's got more kick chase pressure. Everything else to his game, I feel like kind of holds up against Pompey's game, in my opinion.
Yeah. Just quickly, quick fire. Would you rather have Pompey or Berry as a winger?
I'd rather have Pompey as a winger.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's just a quick fire, just to create some other elements. I want to talk about this part of it. Do you think, for me, Rocco is the one you go with because it's about building a center through reps and repetition over time? He's the one you want to get those reps and repetition in. You want that guy hitting 100 games within the next year and a half or 2 years, whatever it is. Pompey, you know what you're going to get from Pomps. We love Pomps.
Yeah, you are.
You know his ceiling. You really want to test Rocco's ceiling, see if he can go another level. But you can't fault Pompey as actual winger and close to the line. He's dangerous. He can find the try line. This guy. But I just want to talk about Pompey. Do you think Pompey could be a guy that you could drop into Cup and bring him back in, and he still does a good job?
100%. He's honestly one of our Mr. Fix. I think that's probably the best facet of Pompey's game is his mindset. It just seems like a guy that kind of just like it's like water off a duck's back. Like no matter what situation, he's just like, yeah, I'll do whatever for the side. He's very similar to a Bunty Afoa to me. Like if you call him up, he's going to do a job. If you drop him the cup, he's going to do a job, and he's going to be happy because he's playing football for his favorite club, I'm guessing. And like he does his work in that sort of sense. So he's a guy that I feel like you could drop in and out where it's not really going to phase him too much. Someone like Rocco, I don't know. Obviously, Rocco's sort of mindset or sentiment over the time, but I think that dropping him the cups kind of feels like a bit more of a backstep for him than Pompey at the moment. Pompey just feels like he is in that range where you can kind of put him wherever you want to, and he's like, yeah, right, I'll do the job.
Yeah, he's so relaxed that he's not putting up a fuss. He's the opposite of a Galvin, pretty much. He'll take whatever.
Pretty much.
Yeah, we'll give you 100K underneath the salary, under the minimum wage. Pompey, will you take it? Yes, sir, I will. I love this club. I'll just do whatever 100%. You say. I'm just happy.
100%. 100%.